A2 Physics, Paper 4, Variant 1. Sure, let's start. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. These are some data points, these are some formulas. Define gravitational potential at a point. You have to define gravitational potential or phi. What is the definition of phi? Force per, or you can say work done per unit mass. Work done per unit mass, per unit mass in moving an object, in moving an object from infinity, from infinity to any defined point within the gravitational field. What is gravitational potential? It is the work done per unit mass in moving an object from infinity to any defined point in the gravitational field. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Let's further move ahead. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's move ahead. Now, if I move further, Mars is a planet that may be considered to be a uniform sphere of radius this. Okay. Mars ka radius is this. Okay. A satellite of mass 112 kg. Okay, so this is a satellite of mass 112 kg is in orbit around Mars at a constant height of 1.710 raised to the power of 6 meters above the surface of planet. Okay, so what do we have? Let's say you have a planet that is known as Mars. Okay. It has a radius of what? Beta Mars का radius क्या है? 3.4 into 10 raised to the power of 6. Okay. Now, there is a satellite at a height h. Let's say there is a satellite at a height h 1.710 raised to the power of 6 meters above the Mars. This is your initial position, or you can say position A. The height is increased. Okay, the height is increased so that now the height is 6.8 10 raised to the power of 6. Now the height above the planet is, let's say, this point B. Till point B, you are 6.8 10 raised to the power of 6. The change in gravitational potential energy from A to B is 5.110 raised to the power of 8. सवाल की समझ आई? एग्जामिनर कह रहा है एक सैटेलाइट है जो मार्स को रोटेट कर रही है. करंटली इट इज एट अ हाइट ऑफ 1.7 into 10 raised to the power of 6 meter above the planet. करंट हाइट क्या है? इनिशियल हाइट क्या है? ये it moves to a height of this 6.8 into 10 raised to the power of 6. That is the final height. When the satellite moves from the initial height to the final height, this is the change in gravitational potential energy. You have to show that the mass of Mars is this. Okay, sit back and relax. Sir, how do we calculate change in gravitational potential energy? Very, very easy. Final gravitational potential energy minus the initial gravitational potential energy. Sir, what is the formula of gravitational potential energy? Do you remember? Gravitational potential energy या U का क्या formula लिखवाया था? Minus capital G, capital M, small m divided by R. Okay, so minus capital G, capital M, small m divided by R. What is the final R? 3.4 plus 6.8 into 10 raised to the power of 6. फाइनल पोजीशन पे आपकी सेपरेशन क्या है? 3.4 into 10 raised to the power of 6 plus 6.8 10 raised to the power of 6 minus the initial gravitational potential energy minus capital G, capital M, small m divided by the initial separation, that is this entire value. which is 1.7 10 raised to the power of 6 plus 3.4 into 10 raised to the power of 6. 3.4 into 10 raised to the power of 6 plus 1.7 10 raised to the power of 6. नेगेटिव नेगेटिव पॉजिटिव हो जाएगा. चेंज इन ग्रेविटेशनल पोटेंशियल एनर्जी इज 5.1. Okay, 5.1 into 10 is the power of 8. Capital G, capital M, small m divided by 3.4 plus 1.7, that comes out to be 5.1, 10 is the power of 6. Minus capital G, capital M, small m divided by 3.4 plus 6.8, ये क्या हो जाएगा? 3.4 plus 6.8, ये क्या हो जाएगा? 10.2. 10.2 into 10 raised to the power of 6. Now, what will we do? We will take capital G, capital M as common. Or you can do like this. इस तरह भी कर सकते हो. Let me do it like this. 5.1 into 10 raised to the power of 8. बेटा आपने क्या निकालना है? You have to calculate the mass of Mars. That is capital M. Let's take capital M as common. Capital G, what is the small mass? 122. Okay. And what is the value of capital G? वो भी input कर देते हैं. Capital G की क्या value है? 6.67. 10 raised to the power of minus 11. Small m is 112. फिर यहाँ पे कैपिटल M कॉमन ले लो. कैपिटल G की क्या वैल्यू है? 6.67. 10 raised to the power of minus 11 into small m 122. This is divided by 5.1. 10 raised to. Just input this in the calculator like I am doing. You too also do it. Divided by 5.1 into 10 raised to the power of 6. Okay. Minus 6.67. 10 raised to the power of minus 11. Okay. Into 122 divided by 10.2 into 10 raised to the power of 6. क्या आंसर आ रहा है? Yes. Geniuses. This comes out to be. Where should I continue the working? Let's continue it here. 5.1 10 raised to the power of 8 is equals to capital M into 7.98 10 raised to the power of minus 16. Bring this to the downside. 5.1 10 raised to the power of 8 divided by 7.98 10 raised to the power of minus 10. What will your answer of capital M come out to be? 5.1 10 raised to the power of 8 divided by answer. This comes out to be what? 6.4 10 raised to the power of 24 kg. We had to prove the same thing. 23 kg. Sorry. ये आ गया आपका आंसर. हाँ जी, ये क्लियर है सब. बात समझ आइए क्या किया है मैंने यहाँ पे. We had to calculate the change in gravitational potential energy. बेटा कभी भी किसी भी चीज का चेंज निकालना होगा तो आप क्या करोगे? आप फाइनल वैल्यू में से इनिशियल वैल्यू को माइनस कर दो बेटे. फाइनल वैल्यू में से इनिशियल वैल्यू को माइनस कर दो. यू विल गेट द चेंज. फाइनल ग्रेविटेशनल पोटेंशियल एनर्जी सर किस तरह निकालूं? फाइनल पोजीशन इज द पोजीशन बी. दिस इज द हाइट अबव द प्लैनेट. दिस इज द रेडियस ऑफ द प्लैनेट. ये आपका आर बन गया. इनिशियल पोजीशन में आर किस तरह निकालेंगे? दिस इज द रेडियस ऑफ द प्लैनेट. दिस इज द हाइट अबव द प्लैनेट. प्लस कर दो. ये आ गया आपके पास आंसर. नेगेटिव नेगेटिव पॉजिटिव हो गया. यू हैव दिस इक्वेशन. Resolve it, you get your answer of capital M, which you have it here. Calculate the gravitational potential at the surface of planet Mars. आपने मार्स के सरफेस पे ग्रेविटेशनल पोटेंशियल निकालनी है. क्या करेंगे सर? How will we calculate the gravitational potential at the surface of planet Mars? Any ideas? Genius is any ideas. Gravitational potential is equals to negative capital G capital M divided by R minus 6.67 10 raised to the power of minus 11. What is the mass of the planet? 6.4 10 raised to the power of 23. What is the radius of the planet? हाँ जी, गिवन है 3.4 10 raised to the power of 6, डिवाइड कर दो. What does your gravitational potential comes out to be? Geniuses. Please put this in the calculator. A2 फिजिक्स में कैलकुलेटर इस्तेमाल करना भी एक स्किल है. इट इज एन आर्ट फॉर्म. कैलकुलेटर इस्तेमाल करना. The answer for gravitational potential comes out to be negative 1.310 raised to the power of 7. शाबाश आमना, very good. Negative 1.3 into 10 raised to the power of 7. What will be the units of gravitational potential? Always remember the units of gravitational potential are joule kg minus 1. The satellite in B is now moved to an orbit in which the satellite remains at the same point above the surface of the Mars. बेटा ये किस चीज की डेफिनेशन है? देखो जरा. If I have a satellite, let's say here, if I have a satellite that is remaining above the same point on Mars, बेटा अगर ये सैटेलाइट मार्स के हमेशा इसी रीजन को कवर कर रही होगी, which type of a satellite is this? क्या लिखा हुआ है? The satellite in B is now moved to an orbit in which the satellite remains at the same point above the surface of Mars. These are geostationary satellites. Geostationary satellites का मतलब क्या होता है? They remain at the same point. They appear to remain at the same point. The orbit of the satellite has a time period of 25 hours. State what can be deduced from this about the rotation of Mars on its axis. Geostationary satellite की एक खास बात होती थी. What was the खास बात of geostationary satellite? The time period of geostationary satellite is the same as the time period of the planet. बेटा जो आपका प्लैनेट का टाइम पीरियड होगा या प्लैनेट जितनी देर में अराउंड इट्स एक्सिस रोटेट करेगा, द सेम टाइम पीरियड विल दैट बी ऑफ द सैटेलाइट. क्या कहा है सर आपने यहाँ पे? बेटा देखो, जो आपका सैटेलाइट का टाइम पीरियड होगा या एक ऑर्बिट को रोटेट करने का प्लैनेट का जितना टाइम होगा, उतना ही सैटेलाइट का भी टाइम पीरियड होगा. सो व्हाट कैन यू से? Mars takes Mars basically takes 25 hours to complete one revolution around its axis. Around its axis. State one other feature of this orbit. बेटा geostationary orbits का एक और feature क्या होता था? They are on the equator. You can write that. और what else can you write? इक्वेटर के अलावा क्या लिख सकते हैं बेटा? They are moving in the same direction as the direction of rotation of Mars. The satellite is moving in the same direction as the direction of rotation of Mars. Satellite क्या कर रही है? Same direction में move कर रही है as direction of rotation of Mars. Let's further move ahead. आगे बढ़ते. A helium atom may be modeled as a nucleus surrounded by two electrons in diametrically opposite circular orbits, each of a radius 170 picometers. बेटा ये जो small p लिखा हुआ है, what does this mean? This means 10 की power negative 12. Okay. State Coulomb's law. Now this is honestly very easy. Force is directly proportional to the product of charges. Force is inversely proportional to the square of separation. I am not writing the complete law. State the charge on the nucleus in terms of elementary charge. बेटा आपने charge on nucleus बताना है in terms of elementary charge. Can you see there are two electrons? Can you see there are two electrons the number of electrons should be equal to the number of protons. Inside the nucleus, there are two protons. Hence, the charge will become 2e. Do you get this? समझ आई ये बात? Show that the electric force between the nucleus and one of the electrons is this. अच्छा जी. बेटा न्यूक्लियस और वन ऑफ द इलेक्ट्रॉन्स के बीच में आपने इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स निकालनी है. व्हाट इज द फॉर्मूला ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स? फॉर्मूला ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स अगर आपको याद नहीं है, अगर आपको इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स का फॉर्मूला याद नहीं है, नाउ हियर द फॉर्मूला शीट कैन हेल्प यू प्रोबेबली. वन सेकंड, लेट मी सी. नहीं नहीं दिया हुआ, इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स का फॉर्मूला नहीं दिया हुआ. ओके, वेरी गुड. वैसे तो आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट यू गाइस टू रिमेंबर एवरी फॉर्मूला. हाँ, इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स का नहीं दिया. व्हाट इज द फॉर्मूला ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स? Q1 Q2 divided by 4 pi E naught R square. What is Q1? What is the charge in the nucleus? 2 times 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19. What is the charge of electron? 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19. Divided by 4 pi. What is the value of this little constant? What is the value of this little cute constant? E naught की value क्या है? हाँ जी, E naught की value क्या है? If I go to the top, E naught की value यहाँ पे लिखी होती है. One second. Yeah, here we have it. E naught is 8.85 into 10 raised to the power of minus 12. If you forget it, you can copy it from here. 8.85 10 raised to the power of minus 12. Okay. What is the radius? बेटा रेडियस क्या है न्यूक्लियस और इलेक्ट्रॉन के बीच में? 170 picometers. Write it here. Multiplied by 170 10 raised to the power of minus 12 का whole square. Can you calculate the electric force? हाँ जी, निकाल सकते हो. इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स का फॉर्मूला कौन निकालेगा? ओह, नॉट द फॉर्मूला, द इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स का आंसर कौन निकालेगा बच्चों? यहाँ पे इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स का आंसर दिस कम्स आउट टू बी 1.6 10 raised to the power of minus 8 न्यूटन इज योर आंसर ऑफ. ठीक है, लेट्स मूव अहेड. Assume that the force in B part 2 is the only force on electrons. Okay. Calculate the speed of the orbiting electrons. बेटा आपने स्पीड निकालनी है of the orbiting electrons. What can you say? You can say that the inward electric force is equal to the outward centripetal force. ये दोनों को इक्वेट कर दो. You can say that the inward electric force is equal to the outward centripetal force. बेटा इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स क्या आ रही है? 1.6 10 raised to the power of minus 8. 1.6 10 raised to the power of minus 8. What is the formula of centripetal force? mv square over r. Do you know the mass of these electrons? Yes, the mass of an electron is equal to 9.11 10 raised to the power of minus 31 kg. अब अगर कोई शहजादी मास भूल जाते हैं, if you forget the mass of electron, क्या करोगे? ऊपर 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 ऊपर. Here you have it. Rest mass of an electron. Simple. 9.11 10 raised to the power of minus 31 लिख दिया यहाँ पे. Do you know the radius? Yep. 170 picometer. Okay. 1.6 10 raised to the power of minus 8. Mass क्या आ गया? 9.11 10 raised to the power of minus 31. Velocity का square divided by the radius. Radius किसके इक्वल आ रहा था? 170 10 raised to the power of minus 12. Can you calculate the velocity? हाँ जी, velocity निकाल सकते हो. 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 8 into 170 into 10 raised to the power of minus 12 divided by 9.11 raised to the power of minus 31. Take an under root, you will get your velocity. Can any genius in the chat calculate the velocity? I think the velocity will come out to be 1.7 10 raised to the power of 6. Velocity क्या आ जाएगी बेटा? 1.7 10 raised to the power of 6 meters per second. हाँ जी, is this clear to everyone? बात समझ आई? Yes or no? बात समझ आई? इससे क्लियर है? चलो, let's move ahead. Now you have to calculate the period of the orbit. Okay, what do we have to calculate, sir? We have to calculate the time. How will we do that? We know that the force on an electron is equal to the centripetal force. The force is equal to 1.6 10 raised to the power of minus 8. What is the formula of centripetal force? mRw square. What will we place in place of W? 2 pi over T. 1.6 10 raised to the power of minus 8 is equal to the mass of electron, that is 9.11 10 raised to the power of minus 31, multiplied by the radius, that is 170 10 raised to the power of minus 12, divided by 2 pi over T ka whole square. Okay. Let's divide both of them towards the left side. 1.6 10 raised to the power of minus 8 divided by 9.11 10 raised to the power of minus 31 into 170 into 10 raised to the power of minus 12. This comes out to be what? 4 pi square divided by T square. Can you calculate the value of the only unknown? क्या आप टाइम पीरियड निकाल सकते हो? कैन यू कैलकुलेट द वैल्यू ऑफ द ओनली अननोन इन दिस इक्वेशन? कैन यू कैलकुलेट दिस टाइम पीरियड टी? यस, इजीली. टाइम कम्स आउट टू बी व्हाट? टाइम किसके इक्वल आ जाता है? कैलकुलेट करो बच्चों, टाइम किसके इक्वल आ जाता है? टाइम कम्स आउट टू बी 6.2 into 10 raised to the power of minus 16 seconds. 6.2 10 raised to the power of minus 16 seconds. Let's further move ahead. In practice, the orbit of each electron is affected by the presence of other electrons. Okay. For the position of one of the electrons, determine the electric field strength due to the other electron divided by electric field strength due to the nucleus. अच्छा जी, बेटा आपने इलेक्ट्रिक फील्ड स्ट्रेंथ ड्यू टू द अदर इलेक्ट्रॉन डिवाइडेड बाय द इलेक्ट्रिक फील्ड स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ द न्यूक्लियस करना है. What is the formula of electric field strength? Electric field strength is equals to charge divided by 4 pi E naught R square. Let's first of all calculate the electric field strength of the other electron. कौन सा इलेक्ट्रॉन सर? ये वाला इलेक्ट्रॉन बेटे. इसकी इलेक्ट्रिक फील्ड स्ट्रेंथ निकालते हैं. चलो, लेट्स डू दैट. 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19, okay, divided by 4 pi into 8.85 into 10 raised to the power of minus 12. What is the distance between the nucleus? What is the distance between this electron and this electron? Obviously, this is 170 picometer. This will also be 170 picometer. बेटा दोनों इलेक्ट्रॉन्स के बीच में कितना डिस्टेंस है? व्हाट इज द आर? 340 picometers. Write it here. 340 into 10 raised to the power of minus 12 the whole square divided by the electric field strength due to the nucleus. How will you calculate that? न्यूक्लियस का चार्ज क्या था? 1.6 10 raised to the power of minus 19 multiplied by 2 divided by 4 pi into E naught 8.85 10 raised to the power of minus 12 into the separation, that is 170 10 raised to the power of minus 12 the whole square. Is anything getting cancelled out? 4 pi E naught, 4 pi E naught cancelled out. 1.96, 1.96 cancelled out. इसको आप ऊपर ले जाओ, डिवाइड हो जाएगा. This turns out to be 170 10 raised to the power of minus 12 का whole square divided by 2 into 340 10 raised to the power of minus 12 का whole square. Can any genius in the chat calculate the ratio? हाँ जी, रेशियो निकालेगा कोई? Yes or no? Can anyone calculate the ratio? The ratio comes out to be 0.31. 0.13 is your ratio. Is this clear to everyone? आमना, खुजैमा, उमर बच्चे बात क्लियर है. ये रीसेंट मोस्ट पेपर करा रहा हूँ ताकि तुम लोग को सब चीजें समझ आ जाए. चलो आगे बढ़ो. Now let's see this. Use your answer in D part 1 to suggest and explain how the orbit of electron is affected by the presence of the other electron. You have to explain how the orbit of the electron is affected by the presence of the other electron. बेटा दूसरे इलेक्ट्रॉन की प्रेजेंस होने की वजह से हाउ इज योर ऑर्बिट ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन affected? Initially, when the nucleus was applying a attractive force on the electron. बेटा जब एक न्यूक्लियस सिर्फ अट्रैक्टिव फोर्स लगा रहा था ऑन द इलेक्ट्रॉन, क्या हो रहा था? ये पूरी की पूरी इलेक्ट्रिक फोर्स वाज इक्वल्स टू द सेंट्रीपिटल फोर्स. However, when this electron comes into motion, ये वाले इलेक्ट्रॉन के इफेक्ट जब हम कंसिडर करते हैं, there will be a repulsive force on this electron like this. This will cause the overall resultant force or the overall centripetal force. What is the formula of centripetal force? mv square over r. If the centripetal force decreases, the velocity will decrease. Is it clear? Define a specific latent heat. Sir, specific latent heat क्या होती है? What is a specific latent heat? I have never heard of such a. Specific latent heat क्या होती है? Energy required per unit mass to change the state at constant temperature. You can write this definition. Energy required or supplied per unit mass to change the state of matter at constant temperature. Easiest possible thing. आगे बढ़ते हैं. अच्छा, explain why for a substance the specific latent heat of vaporization. Why for a substance the specific latent heat of vaporization is usually greater than the specific latent heat of fusion. बेटा एक सब्सटेंस के लिए स्पेसिफिक लेटेंट हीट ऑफ वेपराइजेशन क्यों ग्रेटर होती है कंपेयर टू द स्पेसिफिक लेटेंट हीट ऑफ फ्यूजन? हाँ जी. For vaporization, there is a greater change in the separation of molecules. There is a greater increase in the separation of molecules. Hence, there is a greater increase in potential energy. That's why specific latent heat of vaporization is greater. You will say, during vaporization, there is a larger increase in the separation of molecules. Hence, there is a larger increase in potential energy during latent heat, or you can say during state change. Temperature remains constant. Hence, kinetic energy remains constant. Thermal energy is converted to potential energy. Simple. And this is how you write a three marker answer. Obviously, you will write it in a shorter handwriting or smaller handwriting so that it fits in the lines. An ice cube of mass 37 grams is at temperature of 0 degrees centigrade. Is placed in a beaker containing water of mass 28 grams at a temperature of this. Okay. Okay. When all the ice has melted and all the water in the beaker has reached thermal equilibrium, the final temperature of water is this. Okay. The specific heat capacity of water is this. The beaker has negligible specific heat capacity and is perfectly insulated. Perfectly insulated का क्या मतलब है? No heat lost to surroundings. ठीक है? Determine a value to three significant figures for a specific latent heat of fusion of water. You have to calculate the specific latent heat of fusion of water. किस तरह करेंगे सर? How will we calculate the specific latent heat of fusion of water? Now, how would we calculate the specific latent heat of fusion of water? कैसे निकालें? Specific latent heat of fusion of water. इस तरह निकालेंगे. How will we? कैसे करेंगे? थोड़ा सा सोचो जरा. Imagine that you have a ice at 0 degree centigrade. This will first of all get converted into what? बेटा ये किसमें convert होगा? Water at 0 degree centigrade. Okay. This water will then be heated to a temperature of 10.3. This is your final temperature. ठीक हो गया. चलो 10.3 लिख देते हैं. बच्चों, can you realize this ice का temperature is increasing? That means we can say heat gained by ice. How will you calculate the heat gained by ice? Ice ने कितनी heat gain की है ये कैसे निकालेंगे? What is the mass of ice? 37 grams. Okay. You will multiply this 37 grams mass with the specific latent heat of fusion. 37 into specific latent heat of fusion. Then here you have a temperature change. बेटा जब भी temperature change हो रहा होता है, which formula do you use? mc delta t. What is the mass? 37. What is the specific heat capacity of water? 4.18 multiplied by the change in temperature final minus initial, that is 10.3. Now you will say, sir, आप मास को किलोग्राम में क्यों नहीं कन्वर्ट कर रहे? Because I have to give my final answer in grams. Why should I convert it into kilograms? I don't do that. Let's calculate this answer. 27, 4.18, 10.3. This comes out to 15.9. 15.9. 37 LF plus 15.93 is your heat gained by ice. Okay. Now, how will you calculate heat lost by water? बेटा heat lost by water किस तरह निकालोगे? What is the initial temperature of water? हाँ जी, initial temperature of water is 26.4. Final temperature of water is 10.3. Can you calculate the heat lost by water? Yes. You will say mass of water, that is कितना आ रहा है? 208. Okay. 208 into the specific heat capacity of water, 4.18. Into the change in temperature. What does the change in temperature comes out to be? 16.1. This comes out to be what? 208 into answer into 4.18. This comes out to be 13997. Now you can equate this and this together because the heat gain will be equal to the heat loss. 37 LF plus 1593 is equals to 13997. 37 LF is equals to 13997 minus 1593. LF किसके इक्वल आ जाएगा? 13997 minus 1593 divided by 37. क्या आंसर आ रहा है? LF comes out to be 335 joules per gram. Any confusions here, you can ask without any hesitation. हाँ जी, पूरे सवाल में कोई confusion नहीं, पूछो without hesitation. State what is meant by internal energy of a system. Now, I am not writing the definition. Internal energy is the sum of potential energy plus kinetic energy of molecules moving in random motion. Explain why the internal energy of an ideal gas is directly proportional to the thermodynamic temperature. क्यों? In an ideal gas, internal energy is equal to potential energy plus kinetic energy. Beta, this potential energy becomes what? Zero. Why? Because in an ideal gas, the intermolecular forces of attraction are negligible. Potential energy zero हो जाएगी. Internal energy becomes equal to kinetic energy, and you can say kinetic energy is directly proportional to temperature. Hence, internal energy becomes directly proportional. I am not writing it down because that will take a lot of time. Okay, let's see this. A sample of an ideal gas is at thermodynamic temperature T, has internal energy U. Okay. The gas is compressed so that its temperature increases to 3T. ठीक है भाई. You have a sample of an ideal gas whose temperature is T, internal energy is U. The gas is compressed so that its temperature increases to 3T. During this compression, the work done on the gas is W. Okay. The gas is then cooled at constant volume so that its temperature decreases to 2T. Okay. Complete table 4.1 to show in terms of sum or all of WT and U for the work done on the gas, the thermal energy supplied to the gas, and the increase in internal energy of the gas for each of the two processes. Okay. Now, let's first of all look at the compression. Compression में क्या हो रहा है? आपका temperature is increasing to 3T. Just a B, I have told you internal energy is directly proportional to temperature. If your temperature goes from T to 3T, your internal energy goes from U to 3U. Your initial internal energy was U. Your final internal energy is 3U. Can you calculate the increase in internal energy? 3U minus U is equals to 2U. Can you calculate Q? The thermal energy supplied to the gas. Thermal energy supplied to the gas निकाल सकते हो? Yes. Change in internal energy is equals to Q plus work done on the gas. Do you have the change in internal energy? Yes, 2U. Thermal energy नहीं है. Work done on the gas W है. Q की वैल्यू क्या आ जाएगी बेटा? Q comes out to be 2U minus W. Simple. Yeah. अब कूलिंग वाला प्रोसेस भी देख लो. Let's see the cooling वाला process as well. In the cooling वाला process, if you analyze, examiner क्या कह रहे हैं? The gas is cooled at constant volume. That means change in volume is zero. If change in volume is zero, that means work done becomes zero. यहाँ पे zero आ जाएगा. Okay. So that its temperature decreases to 2T. Okay, if your temperature is decreasing to 2T, what will happen to your internal energy? Internal energy will also become 2U. बेटा आपकी इनिशियल इंटरनल एनर्जी 3U थी, फाइनल इंटरनल एनर्जी इज 2U. कैन यू कैलकुलेट द चेंज इन इंटरनल एनर्जी? नेगेटिव. Now again apply this formula. Change in internal energy is equals to Q plus work done on the gas. Change in internal energy क्या है? Negative U. Work done zero है. Q comes out to be negative U as well. This is how you fill up the table. This is how you fill up the table. One more thing here that is of utmost importance. खुजैमा ये देख लो and everyone else as well. बहुत common topic है ये discussion. Usually there are two forms in which you write the first law of thermodynamics. पहली form कौन सी होती है? Heat supplied is equals to change in internal energy plus work done by the gas. Now, if you move this work done by the gas towards the left side, Q minus work done by the gas is equals to change in internal energy. From past experiences, we have studied that negative of work done by the gas is equals to work done on the gas. So this negative of work done by the gas can be replaced by work done on the gas is equals to your change in internal energy. This is your second equation of thermodynamics. This is the first way to write thermodynamics. अब thermodynamics का first law either of these two ways में लिख सकते हो, कोई मसले वाली बात नहीं है. A cubical, a cuboidal, चलो cuboidal block floats in a liquid with its base horizontal as shown in figure 5. Okay, so there is a block that is floating as shown in figure 5. The base of the block is at a depth h below the surface of the liquid. Okay, depth h below the surface of liquid. Okay. The block is displaced downwards by a small distance and then released so that it oscillates. Figure 5.2 shows the variation with h of the acceleration. Okay. Acceleration versus h ka graph given. Okay. Figure 5.3 shows the variation with h of the kinetic energy of the block. Okay. Determine the amplitude of oscillations. Beta, you have to determine the amplitude of oscillations. आपको amplitude of oscillations determine करनी है. How will you do that? If you realize amplitude का एक formula लिखवाया था मैंने. What is the formula of amplitude? Maximum value of displacement minus the minimum value of displacement divided by 2. मैक्सिमम क्या है 2, मिनिमम क्या है 0.8 divided by 2. This comes out to be what? 2 minus 0.8. This comes out to be 1.2 divided by 2. That is equals to 0.6 meter as your amplitude. 0.6 meters is your amplitude. State what the line in figure 6.2 shows about the nature of oscillations. बेटा ये 5.2 में जो लाइन बनी हुई है, this is telling you something. Acceleration is directly proportional to the negative of displacement. ये किसमें होता था? When the oscillations are simple harmonic. Oscillations are simple harmonic. Okay. Let's further move ahead. State 3 other quantitative conclusions. देखो एग्जामिनर आपको बता रहा है quantitative मतलब numerical based conclusions that can be drawn from figure 2 5.2 5.3 about the block and oscillation. Use the space for anywhere. बेटा आपने quantitative conclusions बताने हैं. You have to tell conclusions that are numerical based. ठीक है. You have to tell about conclusions that are numerical based. ठीक है. Now थोड़ा सा समझेंगे इसको, थोड़ा सा और समझेंगे इसको. भाई न्यूमेरिकल बेस्ड कंक्लूजन्स देने हैं तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो आप ये रियलाइज कर सकते हो कि यहाँ पे इफ यू फोकस अ बिट, इफ यू फोकस अ बिट, अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो तो काइनेटिक एनर्जी ऑफ द ब्लॉक, ठीक है, मैक्सिमम काइनेटिक एनर्जी ऑफ द ब्लॉक इज 9 joules. Maximum kinetic energy of the block is 9 joules. और बेटा ये मैक्सिमम काइनेटिक एनर्जी किसके इक्वल हुआ करती थी? ये मैक्सिमम काइनेटिक एनर्जी किसके इक्वल हुआ करती थी? This used to be equal to the total energy. This used to be equal to the total energy of oscillation is equals to 9 joules. Okay. You can write it here. You can say total energy of oscillations is 9 joules. बेटा सेकंड कंक्लूजन क्या लिख सकते हो? व्हाट कैन बी योर सेकंड कंक्लूजन? कैन यू सी दिस इज द पॉइंट वेयर मैक्सिमम काइनेटिक एनर्जी इज अकरिंग. बेटा मैक्सिमम काइनेटिक एनर्जी हमेशा कहां आकर करती थी? एट द मीन पोजीशन. मीन पोजीशन क्या होगी? 1.4 मीटर. सो यू कैन राइट इट हियर. मीन पोजीशन is 1.4 meters. Lastly, what you guys can do is you can also calculate angular velocity. How? बेटा gradient निकालते चलो. Let's calculate the gradient. Let's say this is 1 point, x axis में 1.4, y axis में 0. Let's say this is your second point. This is x axis में 2, y axis में negative 0.9. Let's calculate the gradient of this graph. Let's calculate the gradient of this graph. बेटा इस ग्राफ का ग्रेडियंट किसके इक्वल होगा? नेगेटिव w स्क्वायर के. Can you calculate the gradient? Yes. Negative 0.9 minus 0 divided by 2 minus 1.4, that is equals to w square. Can you calculate the gradient? हाँ जी. Minus 0.9 divided by 2 minus 1.4. This comes out to be negative 1.5 is equals to negative w square. Cancel, cancel. W किसके इक्वल आ जाएगा? टेकन अंडर रूट. W comes out to be taken under root. W comes out to be under root 1.5, that is 1.22 is equals to your W. W किसके इक्वल आ गया बेटा? W is equals to 1.22 radians per second. These are your three quantitative या number based conclusions. बेटा ये तीन कौन सी conclusions है? Quantitative या number based conclusions. यहाँ तक बात क्लियर है? आगे बढ़े. चलो let's move on. On figure 5.4, sketch the variation with h of the potential energy of the oscillations. Now you have to draw the graph of potential energy versus oscillation. If you remember, potential energy is maximum at the extreme positions. यहाँ पे भी maximum होगी, 2 पे भी maximum होगी. Mean position पे potential energy will be 0. Can you connect the dots? Yes, like this. ये आ गया आपका potential energy का graph. Is this clear to everyone? Okay. Figure 6.1 shows a circuit that rectifies an alternating input voltage, okay, and produces an output voltage across a resistor R. Okay, the four terminals of the rectification circuit are W, X, Y, and Z. अच्छा जी, four terminals of the rectification circuit are W, X, Y. A capacitor C is connected in parallel with the resistor. State what is meant by rectification. हाँ जी, rectification का क्या मतलब होता है? Rectification का क्या मतलब होता है? Converting alternating current to DC current. Converting alternating voltage, alternating current to DC current. Converting AC to DC. State the purpose of capacitor C. बेटा ये हमने capacitor C क्यों लगाया है? To provide smoothing. स्मूथिंग प्रोवाइड करने के लिए हमने कैपेसिटर C लगाया है. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Figure 6.2 shows the variation with time t of the potential difference V in and V out. ठीक है, हमारे पास पोटेंशियल डिफरेंस वर्सेस टाइम का ग्राफ गिवन है यहाँ पे. ओके, the variation of voltage input with time can be represented by this, where A and B are constants. Calculate the value of A and B. Give a unit with your answer for A. Okay. बेटा वोल्टेज इनपुट का कौन सा ग्राफ है? ये डॉटेड लाइन. दिस डॉटेड लाइन इज द ग्राफ ऑफ वोल्टेज इनपुट. दिस इज योर फॉर्मूला. डू यू रिमेंबर ऑल्टरनेटिंग वोल्टेजेस को किस तरह लिखते थे? वी नॉट कोसाइन डब्ल्यू टी. व्हाट इज वी नॉट? वी नॉट इज द एम्पलीट्यूड. एम्पलीट्यूड क्या है यहाँ पे? 12. ए क्या हो जाएगा? 12. एंड द यूनिट्स विल बी वोट्स. What will your W be equal to? W is equals to B. How to calculate W, sir? 2 pi over T is equals to B. Time period किस तरह निकालें, sir? What is the time taken to complete one wave? The time taken to complete one wave is from 0 till 20 milliseconds. Time period क्या हो गया? 20 milliseconds. Okay. Divide कर दो. 2 pi divided by 20 into 10 is the power of minus 3. What is the value of B? Calculate करो तो क्या आंसर आता है? 2 pi divided by 20 into 10 is the power of minus 3. This comes out to be what? 314. 314 radians per second. State the type of rectification produced by the circuit in figure 6.1. बेटा ये 6.1 वाला जो सर्किट है वो कौन सी टाइप ऑफ रेक्टिफिकेशन प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है? कैन यू सी द नेगेटिव साइकिल्स आर कन्वर्टेड इनटू पॉजिटिव साइकिल्स. नेगेटिव साइकिल्स पॉजिटिव में कन्वर्ट हो रहे हैं. दैट मींस दिस इज प्रोड्यूसिंग full wave rectification. That means this is producing full wave rectification. Draw the circuit diagrams for the components inside the rectification circuit. बेटा अब आपने सर्किट डायग्राम बना के शो करने हैं कंपोनेंट्स इनसाइड द रेक्टिफिकेशन सर्किट. हाउ विल यू डू दैट? हाउ विल यू ड्रॉ द कंपोनेंट्स इनसाइड द रेक्टिफिकेशन सर्किट? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये बात तो क्लियर है दैट दिस इज फुल वेव रेक्टिफिकेशन. बेटा फुल वेव रेक्टिफिकेशन में क्या होता था? चार डायोड्स होते थे. फुल वेव रेक्टिफिकेशन में बच्चे क्या होता था? चार डायोड्स होते थे एंड वी हैव टू क्रिएट अ सर्किट लाइक दिस. वी हैव टू क्रिएट अ सर्किट लाइक दिस फॉर फुल वेव रेक्टिफिकेशन. हाँ जी, वी हैव टू क्रिएट अ सर्किट लाइक दिस फॉर फुल वेव रेक्टिफिकेशन. हाउ विल वी डू दैट? कैसे करेंगे? ड्रॉ. How will we draw this full wave rectification circuit? Let's see. We have to draw this thing inside the box. Let's do that. Let's try with my bad drawing skills. Okay. Let's try our best. Okay. Now beta हम इसके बाद क्या करेंगे? The terminals which have unlike terminals. बेटा वो टर्मिनल्स जो अनलाइक फेसेस ऑफ डायोड से कनेक्टेड हैं. That is this one. ये नेगेटिव से भी कनेक्टेड है, पॉजिटिव से भी कनेक्टेड है. This will connect to the input. Similarly, if you see ये टर्मिनल भी ऐसा ही है. ये नेगेटिव टर्मिनल ऑफ द डायोड एंड पॉजिटिव टर्मिनल ऑफ द डायोड बोथ से कनेक्टेड है. This will get connected into the input. Those terminals which have the same faces of the diode, negative and negative, this one will be connected to the output. This as well, positive and positive. This will be connected to the output as well. You have to draw a circuit like this. आई बात समझ में? Yes or no? Is this clear to everyone? I think this is okay. There are some other parts as well to this question. Determine a value for the time constant for the discharge of the capacitor through the resistor in 6.1. Actually, बेटा हमने टाइम कांस्टेंट की वैल्यू निकालनी है. हाउ विल वी डू दैट? डिके इक्वेशन याद है? डू यू रिमेंबर द डिके इक्वेशन? V is equals to V naught exponential t divided by tau. ये इक्वेशन याद है सारों को? आई होप, आई थिंक सबको याद है. नाउ if you realize this thing, यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है बेटा? डिस्चार्ज हो रहा है. ठीक है, लेट्स अप्लाई द डिस्चार्ज इक्वेशन है. V is equals to V naught E minus T over tau. बेटा यहाँ पे एट द एंडिंग पॉइंट वोल्टेज की वैल्यू क्या आ रही है? 8. पीक वोल्टेज क्या है? 12 E माइनस टाइम. कितना टाइम लग रहा है फॉर द डिस्चार्ज टू अकर? लेट्स से यहाँ तक हो रहा है 7.5 सेकेंड्स. ओके, let's say this is 7.5 seconds. Can you calculate tau? Yes, very easy. Bring 12 to the other side. क्या हो जाएगा? 8 divided by 12 is equals to E minus 7.5 divided by tau. Take ln on both sides. Take ln on both sides. What will happen? ln 8 divided by 12 is equals to ln E minus 7.5 divided by tau. Cancel, cancel. क्या आ जाएगा आंसर? Tau is equals to negative 7.5 divided by ln 8 over 12. What does your tau comes out to be? हाँ जी, tau किसके इक्वल आ रहा है? Tau comes out to be 0.018 seconds. आ गई बात समझ में? Yes or no? अच्छा जी. Now the capacitor has a capacitance of this. You have to determine the resistance. How will you do that? Time constant tau is equals to resistance into capacitance. 0.018 divided by the capacitance 570 10 raised to the power of minus 6 is equals to your resistance. What does your resistance comes out to be? Resistance किसके equal आ रही है बेटा? 32 ohms. Now you have to define magnetic flux density. बेटा आपने मैग्नेटिक फ्लक्स डेंसिटी या बी की वैल्यूज को डिफाइन करना है. हाउ विल यू डू दैट? व्हाट इज मैग्नेटिक फ्लक्स डेंसिटी? फोर्स पर यूनिट लेंथ. फोर्स पर यूनिट लेंथ पर यूनिट करंट. फोर्स पर यूनिट लेंथ पर यूनिट करंट in a wire perpendicular to the magnetic field. In a wire that is perpendicular to the magnetic field. Simple. आगे बढ़ते हैं बेटा. A particle of mass m, charge plus q, moves at a speed of v into a region where there is a uniform magnetic field as shown in figure 7.1. ठीक है. The uniform magnetic field is into the page. Okay. And has flux density B. The particle enters the region of field at point Y. The particle enters the region of field at point Y. Okay. State an expression in terms of sum or all of B, Q, M, V for the magnetic flux for the magnetic force F that acts on the particle when it is at point Y. बेटा मैग्नेटिक फोर्स का क्या फॉर्मूला होगा? बी क्यू वी. Here the charge is represented with a capital Q. On figure 7.1, draw an arrow at point Y to indicate the direction of the force in figure 9. B part 1. ठीक है. You have to tell the direction of the force. What will you do? You will apply Fleming's left hand rule. Magnetic field into the page, current towards the right, forces towards the top side. So you can say magnetic field into the page, current towards the right. फोर्स कहाँ आ जाएगी बेटा? फोर्स अपवर्ड आ जाएगी. दिस चार्ज पार्टिकल विल डिफ्लेक्ट upwards like this. Simple. Let's further move ahead. On figure 7.1, draw a line to show the possible path for the particle through the region. कर दिया हमने. ठीक है. Explain how an electric field can be used with magnetic field to ensure that the particle in B now passes through point Z. Okay. We have to tell how an electric field can be used with a magnetic field to ensure that the particle in B now passes through point Z. Basically, हम क्या करवाना चाह रहे हैं? We want the particle at Y to pass through point Z. How can we do that? हाँ जी, याद है कुछ बात? Do you guys remember velocity selector? हाँ जी. Do you guys remember velocity selector की थ्योरी? क्या होता था? याद है कुछ? हाँ जी. किसी को याद है वेलोसिटी सेलेक्टर में हम क्या किया करते थे? यस. व्हाट डिड वी यूज्ड टू डू इट? ये क्लास 6 बजे तक चलेगी बेटा. ये क्लास 6 बजे तक चलेगी. वेलोसिटी सेलेक्टर में हम क्या किया करते थे? इफ यू वांट द इलेक्ट्रॉन टू पास अनडिफ्लेक्टेड, बेसिकली यू वांट द इलेक्ट्रॉन टू पास अनडिफ्लेक्टेड. ओके. If you want the electron to pass undeflected, what should happen? The upward magnetic force should be balanced out by the downward electric force. Upward magnetic force should be balanced out by the downward electric force. Okay. कैसे बैलेंस होगा upward magnetic force by the downward electric force? By applying an electric field. By applying an electric field. Now, how will you apply an electric field here? Positive on the top side, negative on the downside. This will cause the positive charge to be attracted towards the negative plate. Electric force downside पे लगेगी, magnetic force top side पे लगेगी. Both will get cancelled out, and what will happen? Both will get cancelled out, and the particle will pass undeflected. ठीक है? Particle ये जो positively charged particle है, this will pass through Z जब electric force and magnetic force are equal and opposite to each other. So you will say the electric field is applied downwards. Okay. The electric field is applied downwards. ठीक है. What will happen? Electric field is applied downward. This will generate a downward electric force on the charge. Downward electric force on the charge. This downward force, or you can say, for the electron to pass undeflected, the magnitude of electric force and magnetic force should be same. Also, if you realize, यहाँ पे एग्जामिनर ने क्या दी हुई है आपको? थोड़ी सी स्पेस. The examiner has given you a space here. You can draw a diagram here as well. You can basically draw a diagram here. Let's draw this entire diagram in a neat and clean format here. Let's say this is magnetic field going into the base. Okay. From the top side, we have applied an electric field like this. And now, a positively charged particle passes through this like this. You have a magnetic force acting upward. You have an electric force acting downward. The electron passes undeflected like this. Derive an expression in terms of V, for V in terms of B and electric field. Okay. So what is V? बेटा V क्या है? पहले तो ये देखो. V is defined किया हुआ है इन्होंने. हाँ. V is the speed at which the electron is moving inside this region. First of all, you will say magnetic force is equal to electric force if the electron has to pass undeflected. Magnetic force का क्या formula है? B Q V. What is the formula of electric force? Electric field strength into charge. Q cancel out. Velocity V is equal to electric field strength divided by the magnetic field strength. This is the formula. Is everything crystal clear? State what is meant by de Broglie's wavelength. De Broglie's wavelength का क्या मतलब होता है बच्चों? Wavelength associated with the moving particle. Wavelength associated with a moving particle. With a moving particle. Okay. Now what do we have to do? Calculate the de Broglie's wavelength of the electron moving at a speed of this. Okay, एक electron इस speed पे move कर रहा है. You have to calculate the de Broglie wavelength of this. De Broglie wavelength is equals to the Planck's constant divided by the momentum. Planck's constant की क्या value होती है बेटा? हाँ जी. What is the value of Planck's constant? 6.63 into 10 raised to the power of minus 34. मोमेंटम की क्या वैल्यू होगी? द मास ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन 9.11 10 raised to the power of minus 31 into the velocity that is 4.9 10 raised to the power of 7. Can you calculate the de Broglie's wavelength? Yes, 1.5 10 raised to the power of minus 11 meter is your de Broglie's wavelength. Okay, let's further move ahead. State one similarity and one difference between an electron and a positron. Similarity क्या है? Both have same mass. Both have the same mass. What is the mass? दोनों का mass तो same है, but क्या होता है वो mass? 9.11 10 is the power of minus 31 kg. What is the difference? Electron is negatively charged. However, positron is positively charged. Easiest possible thing. आगे बढ़ते हैं. An electron moving at a speed of 4.9 10 is the power of 7 collides with a positron that is traveling with the same speed in the opposite direction. As a result of this collision, two gamma ray photons are produced. State the name of this reaction. बेटा जब इलेक्ट्रॉन और पॉजिट्रॉन मिलते हैं एंड दे रिजल्ट इन द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ टू गामा रे फोटॉन्स, ये कौन सा रिएक्शन होता है? This is the annihilation का reaction. This is the reaction of annihilation या annihilation, however you pronounce it. State what happens to the electron and the positron. Electron और positron को ऐसा क्या हो जाता है? The mass of these electrons and positron converts into the energy of gamma ray photons. Simple. You will say the mass of electron and positron gets converted into the energy of gamma ray photons. ठीक हो गया? All clear? आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's move ahead. Explain why two gamma ray photons are produced rather than one. Okay, why are two gamma ray photons produced rather than one? For this, you will have to realize one thing. हाँ जी, अगर आप नोटिस करो दो गामा रे फोटॉन्स क्यों प्रोड्यूस हो रहे हैं? Why are two gamma ray photons being produced? Because they travel in opposite direction to keep the total momentum constant, to conserve the total momentum. Now let me explain this point in a bit more detail. You have an electron moving at a speed of this that collides with a positron that is traveling with the same speed in the opposite direction. Okay, what is happening? Initially, you have an electron that is moving with a speed of v. You have a positron that is traveling with a speed of v but in the opposite direction. Can you realize the mass of electron and the mass of positron are same? Initial momentum क्या हो जाएगा? mv, that is the momentum of electron, plus negative mv, that is the momentum of positron. The initial momentum of this collision is zero. To keep the final momentum zero, one gamma ray photon travels towards the right, one gamma ray photon travels towards the left. बेटा फाइनल मोमेंटम जीरो रखने के लिए एक गामा रे फोटोन राइट साइड पे ट्रेवल करता है, एक दूसरा लेफ्ट साइड पे, या एक टॉप साइड पे एक डाउन साइड पे. दे ट्रैवल इन ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन. दे ट्रैवल इन opposite directions to keep momentum conserved. To keep momentum conserved. Okay. Last part. Show that the kinetic energy of the electron before the collision is this. You have to calculate the kinetic energy 1/2 mv square. बेटा मास क्या होता है इलेक्ट्रॉन का, अभी बात की है. 9.11 10 raised to the power of minus 31. वेलोसिटी ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन क्या है यहाँ पे, कहाँ गया, 4.910 raised to the power of 7 का स्क्वायर कर लो. 4.910 raised to the power of 7 का होल स्क्वायर. Can you calculate the kinetic energy of the electron? हाँ जी, kinetic energy of the electron निकल आएगी 1.110 raised to the power of minus 15 joules. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay. Use the information in D part 4 to determine to three significant figures the wavelength associated with gamma ray photons. So basically क्या हो रहा है, the electron has a kinetic energy of 1.110 raised to the power of minus 15 joules. Okay. Beta, as this electron collides with the positron, you have to calculate the wavelength of gamma ray photons produced. ठीक है, यही सवाल है. You have to calculate the wavelength of gamma ray photons that are produced. Please listen carefully. How will you calculate the total energy of electron? बेटा इलेक्ट्रॉन की टोटल एनर्जी कैसे निकालोगे? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, इट हैज सम अमाउंट ऑफ काइनेटिक एनर्जी दैट इज 1.110 raised to the power of minus 15 joules. Then do you remember in the process of annihilation क्या होता था? The mass of electron used to get converted into the energy of gamma ray photons. So बेटा हमने यहाँ पे इलेक्ट्रॉन के मास को भी एनर्जी में कन्वर्ट करना होगा. Using which formula? E is equals to mc square. We will convert the mass of electron into energy. So we will add this energy here. यहाँ पे हम कौन सी एनर्जी ऐड कर रहे हैं? That will be released once the mass of electron gets converted into energy. 9.1110 raised to the power of minus 31 is speed of light क्या 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8 का whole square. Can you calculate the total energy of this electron? हाँ जी, टोटल एनर्जी ऑफ दिस इलेक्ट्रॉन निकाल सकते हो जी सर, बिल्कुल. 1 second. Yeah, the total energy of electron comes out to be 8.3110 raised to the power of minus 14 joules. This is the total energy of electron. Now this total energy of electron gets converted into what? Energy of photon. Total energy of electron gets converted into what? Energy of photon. Hanji. Can you equate both of these? Yes. 8.31 10 raised to the power of minus 14 is equals to hc over lambda. You have to calculate what? You have to calculate this wavelength. How will you do that? Wavelength is equals to hc over 8.31 10 raised to the power of minus 14. What is the value of h? 6.63 10 raised to the power of minus 34. into the speed of light, 3 into 10 is the power of 8, 8.31, 10 is the power of minus 14. What does your answer comes out to be? 6.63, 10 is the power of minus 24 into 3 into 10 is the power of 8 divided by 8.31, 10 is the power of minus 14. Your answer comes out to be 2.4, 10 is the power of minus 12 meters. This is clear to everyone in the chat. And 2.4, 2.39, whatever you want to write, both are acceptable till two significant figures or three significant figures. Clear है ये बात? आगे बढ़े? Yes or no? हाँ जी. Define the activity of a radioactive sample. You have to define the activity of a radioactive sample. How will you do that? Activity of a radioactive sample किस तरह बताओगे? Number of radiations per unit time. Number of radiations per unit time. Okay. Explain why the variation with time t of the activity of a radioactive sample is exponential in nature. हमने बताना है why is activity exponential. First of all, you will say activity is directly proportional to the number of nucleuses, proportional to the number of undecayed nuclei. Then you will say the number of undecayed nuclei, the number of undecayed nuclei are directly proportional. is directly proportional भी लिख सकते हो, are directly proportional भी लिख सकते हो. इंग्लिश का इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Is directly proportional to the rate of change of undecayed nucleus. The number of undecayed nuclei is directly proportional to the rate of change of undecayed nuclei. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ सर? ये अभी से फर्स्ट टू की पॉइंट्स लिखवाए हैं, उसके बाद लास्ट की पॉइंट लिखवाए. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? हाउ डू आई एक्सप्लेन इट टू यू इन न्यूमेरिकल टर्म्स? ओके. Activity is directly proportional to n. That is the number of undecayed nuclei. Now, number of undecayed nuclei is directly proportional to the rate of change of undecayed nuclei. अब इन दो चीजों को ना समझना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट. इन दो चीजों को समझना बहुत 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 इंपॉर्टेंट है. वेरी 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 इंपॉर्टेंट. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Let's say you have 1,000 nucleuses. Let's say you have 1,000 undecayed nucleuses. Okay. After one half life, एक हाफ लाइफ के बाद ये कितने बच जाएंगे? 500. बेटा यहाँ पे आपका चेंज इन n ओवर चेंज इन t क्या हो गया? 500. आफ्टर एन अदर हाफ लाइफ ये कितने बच जाएंगे? 250. What is your change in n over change in t? 250. After another half life, this will become 125. आपका change in n over change in t क्या हो गया? 125. Can you realize a pattern? Can you realize a pattern? Beta, number of undecayed nuclei is directly proportional to the rate of change of undecayed nuclei. कितने न्यूक्लियस, अब सुन लो, कितने न्यूक्लियस पर यूनिट टाइम डिके करेंगे डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट? depends on the number of what? Undecayed nuclei. That's why if I combine these two equations, activity is solely dependent on the rate of change of undecayed nuclei. That's why activity is exponential. यहाँ पे लास्ट की पॉइंट हम क्या लिखेंगे? व्हाट विल बी योर लास्ट की पॉइंट हियर? यू विल से activity is equals to negative of rate of change of undecayed nuclei. ठीक हो गया. Activity is exponential क्योंकि activity depend करती है on the number of undecayed nucleuses. Number of undecayed nucleuses is directly proportional to the rate of change of what? Rate of change of undecayed nucleuses. जितने ज्यादा undecayed nucleuses कम होंगे, rate of change of undecayed nucleuses कम होंगे, and hence your activity is exponential. Did this make sense? चलिए, आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's move ahead. Try this. Let's try this one. A sample contains a single radioactive source that decays to form a stable isotope. The sample has an activity of 180 becquerels. ये आ गई आपकी activity. At a time 8.4 minutes later, this is your activity. So let's say this is your A naught, this is your activity after 8.4 minutes. Okay. Determine the decay constant. Do you remember this formula? A is equals to A naught E minus lambda T. A क्या है? 120. A naught क्या है? 180. E minus decay constant हमें नहीं पता. T क्या है? 8.4 minutes. Okay. 120 divided by 180 is equals to E minus 8.4 lambda. Take ln on both sides. Ln on both sides. What will happen? Ln 120, 180, ln E minus 8.4 lambda E cancel out. Ln 12 divided by 18 divided by negative 8.4 is equals to your decay constant. What does your value of decay constant comes out to be? Decay constant की वैल्यू क्या आ जाती है? 0.048 minute minus 1. Use your answer in C part 2 to determine the half-life in minute of the radioactive sample. Half-life का क्या फॉर्मूला होता है बेटा? Ln2 divided by the decay constant. Ln2 divided by 0.048. Half-life की क्या वैल्यू आ गई? Half-life की value comes out to be 14 minutes. Simple. Let's further move ahead. On figure 9.1, sketch the variation of activity of the sample with time from time t is equals to 0 till time t is equals to 24 minutes. Okay. So what was the initial activity? 180. Let's make 180. This will be 160. This will be 1. Okay, let's break it. This will be 160. This will be 160. ये 160 के करीब आ जाएगा. This will be 170. This will be 180. So initially the activity is 180. After one half life, after 14 days, your activity will be equal to 90. So यहाँ पे you can say that this is 90 after 14 days, somewhere here. Okay. And you also remember from the instructions here at 8.4 minutes, the activity is 120. So 8.4 minutes कहाँ पे होंगे? If this is 8, this is 12. You are covering 4 units in 10 boxes. एक box में कितने units होंगे? 0.4. So here is 8.4 minutes. At 8.4 minutes, you have this. 120. 8.4 पे you have this 120. How will you draw the graph? हाँ जी, ग्राफ किस तरह बनेगा? Somewhat. Oh. How will you draw the graph? You will draw basically a graph with negative gradient. You will draw a graph with negative gradient like this. Oh, why is this messing up? 1 second. Hanji, let's draw the graph. A curve basically. You can draw a curve like this. But you have to make sure that it curves as well. Like, probably like this. Like this. Probably you can draw a much better curve than me, but like, let me decrease the thickness so that, yeah, probably a curve like this. This will be a curve here passing through these 3 points. Probably that will be it. Yeah. ये इस तरह का आप कर्व बना लोगे यहाँ पे. That will be it for this question. Next सवाल पे आते हैं. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, state Hubble's law. Now Hubble's law was very easy. I am not writing the full format of Hubble's law. You can just write the definition. Speed of recession was directly proportional to the distance between the galaxy and the observer. A star in a distant galaxy emits radiation that have maximum intensity at a wavelength of this. Okay, so this is your wavelength maximum. Okay. Observation of the galaxies made on the Earth detect the maximum intensity of emission from the star at this wavelength. Okay. So this is basically वो वाली wavelength जो आपने Earth पे observe की है. This is the wavelength that is emitted on the galaxy. Explain why the observed wavelength and the emitted wavelength have different values. Observed और emitted की different values क्यों है? Because the galaxy is moving away from the Earth. The galaxy is receding away from the Earth. Observed wavelength is redshifted and hence it is greater. You will say the galaxy is, let me thin this up. Galaxy is, oh, that's quite thin. Galaxy is moving away from Earth. This causes the wavelength to be red shifted and hence observed wavelength is greater than emitted wavelength. Easy peasy. Now you have to calculate the speed of the star. You have to calculate the speed of recession v. कैसे निकालोगे? Change in wavelength divided by the wavelength is equals to v over s. Change in wavelength किस तरह निकालोगे बेटा? What is the observed wavelength? 4.91. 10 raised to the power of -7. Minus the emitted wavelength, that is 4.62, 10 raised to the power of -7. और हमेशा ये डिनोमिनेटर में क्या रखते हैं? हमेशा इमिटेड वेवलेंथ रखते हैं. कौन सी वेवलेंथ इमिट हुई है? 4.62 10 raised to the power of -7. 10 raised to the power of -7. You have to calculate the speed of recession. Speed of light is 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8. Speed of recession क्या आ जाती है? Can anyone calculate? The speed of recession comes out to be 1.9 10 raised to the power of 7 meters per second. Okay. The wavelength of maximum intensity of emission. अच्छा जी, emitted wavelength आप use कर रहे हो. Okay, to determine a value for the surface temperature of star. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. Explain how the temperature determined by the observed wavelength. Okay, the wavelength that is greater. Okay, the temperature determined by the observed wavelength compared with the true value of temperature determined by the emitted wavelength. Beta, can you humbly realize that observed wavelength is greater compared to the emitted wavelength? And we know that wavelength maximum is inversely proportional to temperature. If wavelength observed is greater, the calculated surface temperature will be lesser. What will you write? Wavelength of maximum intensity is inversely proportional to temperature. Wavelength for maximum intensity is inversely proportional to temperature. Is inversely proportional to temperature. As wavelength increases, temperature would be lower or temperature would be estimated to be lower या temperature would be too low. अच्छा जी, last question of this paper. A value for Hubble space constant is this. Determine the distance d of the star from the Earth. How will you do that? V is equals to h naught d. The speed of recession क्या है बच्चों? 1.9 10 raised to the power of 7. 1.9 into 10 raised to the power of 7. What is the Hubble space constant? 2.3 into 10 raised to the power of minus 18. Can you calculate the value of d? Yes, 1.9 10 raised to the power of 7 divided by 2.3 into 10 raised to the power of minus 18. What does your value of d comes out to be? Value of d क्या आ जाती है? 8.3. 10 raised to the power of 24 meters. Alhamdulillah, this paper is finished.